Would you introduce your family?
Well, this is my wife, Katie Wester, Katie Farmer from many moons. And this is Killian Wester, our son. He is 4 months and a week.
Close.
4 months and a week. And he was born on St. Patty's Day. He's our first. We've been together for 8 years, married for 5. So it's pretty cool.
Okay, well, where did you grow up?
I grew up here in Denton 4th Ward.
Wow.
And I grew up in Pilot Point,
So you're both right around.
Denton 1st Ward with his son Michael Cudd, David Tryon, Harrison Stalker, which is cool to be back in the ward because.
What is one of your fondest memories?
So it was in Arkansas, but it was a high adventure when we were 14
With the church?
with the church. And so even though it was in Arkansas, it was just too much fun. And then right after that was the ward split. And so even though I was supposed to be in Aubrey Ward, I still went to 4th Ward with Michael and Harrison and everybody else because after the high adventure. So I would say that was like the very end of this was 1st Ward youth. We had like 15 deacons, teachers. So I would say that was my fondest memory.
That's great, because that shows how the youth program really, really works.
Whereas like at the same time, at one point in 4th Ward, there were like 7 or 8 youth, and 4 of them were my family members. And so it's just like, just between like me, my 2 brothers, and then I had 3 cousins in the ward. And then there was really only 2 or 3 other people at the time. Until that split, and then we got all these new youth. So yeah, it really
that
changed
makes a
things
big
up.
difference, doesn't it? It does. So what is one of your favorite fond family memories?
So it'd be super late at night, and just the whole family would just end up getting together, and we'd always have a big dinner, and we'd be like, man, it's super late, and so we'd always just every night we'd call it midnight dinners. The whole family can always get together for a midnight dinner because nobody's busy, and nobody's doing other
It's
stuff.
wonderful. It shows the importance of your mother, your parents wanting the family to have dinner together instead of everyone coming in on this. What is one of your most special spiritual moments?
I always, I think back to a time when I was in high school, and I was, I was working one day a week. I was working on Saturdays at this kids' party place, and all of my friends, we were all supposed to go to this football game in Oklahoma. It was an OU game, and one of my friends, her grandpa worked there, and so we'd always get free tickets. And this one Saturday, we were supposed to go. We had planned it all week. Everybody, knew who was riding with who, what was supposed to happen. And they were just waiting on me to get off work. And I got off at like noon. It wasn't a big deal. And just the whole time I was at work, it was just like I kept getting this like don't go feeling. It was just like just don't go. And I was like, well, I'm gonna go because that's the plan. Like that's what we're doing. And then I got off work and same thing. It was just like just don't go. And so I was like, well, I just. Something is in me is just telling me just not to go on this trip. And so I texted my friends, I was like, hey, sorry, I know y'all been waiting for me to get off, but like, it's just not happening for me. Like you guys go ahead, I'm just gonna stay at home this weekend. And even at the time, I had no idea why. I was like, I really, really wanna go, but I'm just gonna follow this just don't go prompting. And on the way up there, all of my friends, there was this huge storm and they ended up getting in this accident, and one of my friends broke her leg. And there was one open spot in the car, and I was like, I don't know what would have happened if I had been in the car, and so I have no idea, everything could have been fine, I could have been the one, somebody else could have been hurt because there were, 5 of us in the car.
The spirit's telling you that strong. Probably something not good.
And I kept wanting to ignore it. I was like, no, I'm going. I'm not going to tell them early that I'm not going. And then when I got off work, I was like, no, it's just too strong, too much is telling me not to go on this trip.
Wonderful. What about you?
Right before our marriage, I had an interview with President Griffin, and we're just sitting here having an interview, and then he was like, oh, I just feel like I should give you a blessing. And I was like, oh, okay, cool. And he was like, yeah, sure, give me a blessing. And so it was right before the wedding, and then he gave me a blessing, and there was like 3 things that like stood out in my mind. It was like a beginning of a paragraph type thing in my blessing. Or just that he gave me, and I was just thinking about it the whole way home, and I was like, oh man, that was some pretty strange, unorthodox things he was saying, but
I remember you were really emotional when you came out after. It was our Temple Recommend interviews.
Yeah, and so he gave
Yeah.
me that blessing, and I was like, okay, cool. And then I went in for my patriarchal blessing with Brother Knowles, right?
Yeah, patron nobles.
Oh, Nobles, not Knowles. Patriarch Nobles.
Wonderful man.
Yeah.
And so and so then he was giving my patriarchal blessing, and I mean, like word for word, 3 of those sentences were like identical, and it was pretty surreal and freaky.
It was
And
something
then-
really important to you.
Yeah,
I mean, it was.
it was like strange, and like it's still pretty bone chilling, the identicalness of those 3 sentences that are like that. I don't think there was any reason that Griffin would have said that or felt like he should say that, and then there was no relationship between him and Nobles, and then he said it, and then I was like,
Oh.
that's just
And even after, I remember you saying like you were so emotional with the one that the President Griffin had given you at the time, and you were like, you were really emotional. And then later you said something to him about it, and he was like, I don't even know what you're talking about. You know, like it was just like the Spirit was just talking through him so much that he was like, this is what needed to be said for you at the time.
And it's
he
really
was like,
cool
no.
because not only did Nobles say it, but it is something that now I have in writing. So like now I can go back and like read those 3 sentences, and it's cool because it's not only that like somebody else gave me a blessing that said the same thing. It was the kind of thing that now somebody else gave me a blessing, and I have a copy of it.